So Mark, algorithms, they're great. You know, they help us decide what to eat and to watch and who to date. But when it comes to life-changing decisions, such as whether a criminal should go to prison and for how long, should algorithms be used in this case, in our justice system?
It's a very good question. I'm aware that there have been suggestions from some quarters about inherent bias within algorithms based on perhaps the data sets they use or the background of the people designing the software. And there's certainly reason for concern there. On the other hand, there's always been bias in the justice system. In the past, police forces have been very unrepresentative in terms of the makeup of the societies that they police. I believe that the future is a future in which we will exploit algorithms and other mathematical processes, machine learning and big data sets to deal with some aspects of a problem, because computers and software can do things with data that humans cannot do. And I certainly want all aspects of a crime I'm accused of to be examined. I wouldn't want to feel that because of the volume of the data, they couldn't examine everything that is relevant to my defense. But on the other hand, I would want a human user with human intuition, human empathy, human intelligence to be involved in the decision-making process. So I think the problem arises where you remove the human user from the equation and, excuse the pun, and focus on the algorithmic decision. Just in the same sense that when you didn't have algorithms in place, you were totally reliant on a human decision, which could be biased. So I'd like to see that mix. I'd like to see algorithms guiding human users, but human users ultimately having the power to say no. We don't agree with that.
Can algorithms ever be neutral? Can we ever use them, as I say, in a balanced way, in a fair way?
It's very challenging. The first problem we face is the trust that people who are not familiar with the technical realities put in technology. That famous computer says no skit from Little Britain. If people trust the technology, absolutely, and they don't apply their own common sense, we have a problem. If people distrust technology, absolutely, we have a problem. So there's got to be a middle ground where we understand what technology can and cannot do, and we will build processes based on that understanding, and we give people a role and algorithms a role, and we factor in the bias that may exist, not malicious bias, but natural bias on the part of people building those algorithms. And if we're able to balance things and take all that into account, I think algorithms are a positive force.
So it's improving our relationship with technology.
Yes. Understanding it better, not refusing to try to understand it because we're afraid it's too complex, it's too challenging. I think most of it we can understand if we put our minds to it, or if we're trained adequately and appropriately, and if the systems give us the say, allow us to object, allow us to raise the alarm when appropriate.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, right now, how good is that relationship with technology?
Oh, really poor.
Really poor. So we're saying a 1 or a 2?
Oh yes. I mean, outside certain sort of very high-tech environments, you'd find that only a tiny proportion of people have an inkling of what's really going on.
I mean, I read an article the other day saying that the cases of pedophilia, using the internet to commit sex crimes against children, have trebled in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And there have been calls to place tougher regulation on social media and these platforms. What are your thoughts on this? Whose responsibility is it? We've seen Instagram under fire recently as well. If you see images online, is it the fault of the person who's put it online? Or should social media platforms, should these technology platforms take responsibility? Should government take responsibility? Whose fault and responsibility is it?
So when an illegal image is put online and viewed by somebody, there's a chain of events that's occurred. In the same way that if I have a traffic accident, this afternoon, God forbid, there's a chain of events that occurred. Did I have a drink here before I left here? Did I sleep well last night? Am I properly trained to drive the vehicle? Has the vehicle had an MOT? So there's a whole series of things to be factored into any sort of decision making. And I think the same is true with images. there is definitely, in my view, a responsibility on the part of the organization, whether they define themselves as a publisher or not, the organization that facilitates the posting and distribution of images. They have a clear responsibility to manage that process well. And if they didn't anticipate the problem when they set themselves up, that doesn't remove the responsibility. They have to now fix that problem. But there is also a responsibility on the part of the person posting the image. There's a responsibility on the part of the person taking the image. There's a responsibility on the part of the person viewing the image, the one who doesn't object to viewing that image and consuming it and sharing it. So we've got to assign those responsibilities and guilt, if guilt is the right word, across that spectrum, across that chain of events, and not just focus on, is it Facebook or Instagram, or is it the viewer, or is it the person taking the picture? They're all culpable.
So it's a lot more complex
Yeah.
than it seems.
It's not a binary thing, and most problems are complex.